Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sketchy Ideas, the live point counterpoint video podcast where we illustrate and debate concepts surrounding leadership, business, and personal development in a way that may make you think twice before you implement that new idea you just learned all about on the internet. Hi, I'm Michael Rampolla, and I'm your flying solo host for today. Brad is in Florida on a business trip, and he has left me holding the bag. He put me in charge, confidently put me in charge. There you go. Confidently put me in charge of the show this week. His oversight, our opportunity. Now, last week, I promised you a special guest for this week's show, and I can't wait to tell you who that is. But first, how about a word from our sponsors? It's your business, so you have to be in charge of everything, right? Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. You don't have to be in charge of everything. Even the most organized people need a hand sometimes. Maybe you don't have the time to keep up with your social media. You haven't branded yourself fully. It's okay. Cream City Marketing is here to help. The experienced creative team over at Cream City works with you to relieve your stress around marketing. They help you craft the quality content that gets you in front of your ideal customers so you can reach your business goals. Cream City Marketing handles the stress, and you can do the rest. Reach out to our friend Erin today. Send her an email at Erin, ERIN, at creamcitymarketing.com. Sketchy Ideas is also powered by Spirity. The unknown is preventing growing and scaling businesses from realizing their full potential. Too much time is wasted on misalignment, lack of focus, and the way we've always done it. These owners want to make informed and intentional decisions, but they struggle because they don't know what's happening across the organization. SpearOS is a system that helps organizations know what's happening in a simple and effective way. Leveraging artificial intelligence to identify trends and patterns, growing organizations can see what's working and not working to make intentional adjustments. Because once you know better, you can do better and truly realize your potential. Spirit is on a mission to objectively measure, analyze, and improve performance at scale. SpearOS enables organizations to grow revenue, retain customers, engage employees, and match performance to knowledge. And after that, what else do you really need? Ready to optimize your business? Connect with us at spirity.com. All right, folks, are you ready? Let's go. Now, between last week's episode and this week, you probably know we produced our first ever Sketchy Ideas virtual conference event, the Sketchy Soiree. And we had such positive reactions and feedback from our keynote presentation, we decided to bring you an encore performance of that presentation from the amazing Natalie Brettel. And her presentation is titled Humans Working with Humans. Doesn't get more essential than that. Natalie is my special guest because Natalie's presentation was so great. I wanted to make sure that we could bring it to everybody. So we're doing that encore presentation right now. Natalie shares with us a simple framework that will enable you to leverage one of the most powerful growth tools that anyone can bring to their business: reflection. Intriguing? Yes, it is. I know. That's why we're bringing it to you. So yes, I will be back with you after this. So watch this, and I'll wrap things up afterward and send you off for today's show. But without further ado, here is the encore broadcast of our Sketchy Soiree keynote, Humans Working with Humans, from Natalie Brettel. Enjoy.
Perfect. Thank you so
There you
much,
go.
Michael. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
First of all, I obviously just want to say thank you for having me. I'm very excited to join in on a great conversation. I'm all about innovation and development and progress, both on a personal level and a professional level. So I'm very excited to kind of provide what I have to offer and hopefully provide some different ideas and some different context for you guys to hopefully apply in your own personal life and businesses moving forward. I have always been a person of like natural curiosity, particularly about behavior and problem solving and how the human brain works. Those little kids, when they're in that stage of life where they're always like, well, why? But why? But why? That is literally me as an adult when it comes to the brain and problem solving and understanding why people do what they do. So I've kind of taken that natural curiosity and been able to thankfully apply it to helping humans kind of just develop themselves, interact with one another, and kind of have that self-reflective thought of, well, why? Why do I do this? Why do I interact this way? And this kind of leads to a concept that dawned on me a while ago, that at the end of the day, we are all just humans working with humans. Whether it is a personal relationship, an intimate relationship, a family relationship, a professional relationship, we are all humans working with humans. We're interfacing with one another in one way or another. And that can get kind of messy sometimes, just because we have our own personal perspectives, and then we are expected to interface with someone who might have a completely different perspective. So what does that mean for you guys? What does that mean for how we interact? What does that mean for small business? Because everybody's like, well, yeah, we're humans. We just, kind of go about doing our human things. So in small business, in business in general, I know a lot of the focus is on, process, progress, next steps as far as moving the business forward. And a huge aspect of that is humans. We all have to work with the humans. We all have to network. We all have to work with our coworkers or our supervisors, whatever it might be. And I've really just been able to break it down, and I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm a human person, not a technology person, so I will do my best. Okay, let me see. Okay, can you all see that? Oh, okay. So this is really just going to focus on a simple process for reflection that can make you a more effective leader, or more effective in your role, or more effective just human being. 3 core concepts that I'm going to cover today are: 1, humans are complex. This is a general understanding that we can all kind of accept as a society, that, like I mentioned, we are complex. We have our own perspectives, our own emotions, and then we are expected to understand and accept the emotions and perspectives and opinions of others. And they might be very different. So what do we do with that? Number 2, that we're going to kind of touch on is effectiveness, and how that directly connects to reaching your goals. So as humans, we all have goals that we want to reach, and reaching goals means being effective in some way. So to be effective, we often need better tools. We need new skills to be able to kind of heighten our awareness and do what we need to do to reach the end goal, and kind of approach any obstacles that get in the way with a mindful approach. And I use the word effectiveness because it really takes out that black and white between good or bad or right or wrong. It's effective and ineffective. Just because when we do something, we can, think we did it really well, we were spot on, and we can always be more effective. So it really creates that space for personal growth that is inherent when we use the word effective. And then the third core concept, which is the main one, it is the big one, it is the basis kind of for everything, is reflect for growth. If we are not able to internally reflect on ourselves, reflect on the situation in front of us, we are not going to be able to directly apply what we need to grow, to reach our goals, and to get where we want to go. So that reflection piece is a process. And because it's a process, it means that you can learn how to do it. It means that you can learn how to do it effectively. And it means that there are steps that you can take to reflect. So if humans are complex and we have goals that we want to reach and we need to reflect, what do we do? How do we get there? And how do we then use all of that to have better tools and get where we want to go? So this is the idea. This is where the idea of reflection really comes into play. Interpersonal reflection, the and the act of being able to be reflective is the core basis of being able to apply other tools, whether they're interpersonal tools, distress tolerance tools, emotion regulation tools. We have to be able to have that internal reflection to be able to understand the problem at hand and apply the tools. So as I mentioned, reflecting can be broken down into a process. So number one, observe. To reflect, we need to observe. And my presentation style is if you have any questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the chat, raise your hand. I'm a very interactive presenter. So as we get into this a little bit, feel free to interrupt me. It's totally fine. But observing. The main question here is, what are you choosing to pay attention to? Most people, when we think of the word observe, we think of just the simple act of noticing what's going on around us. Oh, I'm observing. I see what's going on around me. It is what it is. Like, this is the situation. And when we are planning on observing so that we can contribute it toward the act of being reflective, it has to be much more purposeful. The act of observing is much more purposeful than just noticing what's going on around you. It is noticing internal events, external events, and really deciding what you are choosing to pay attention to. So my example for this is, I was cooking chicken one night, and the person I was eating chicken with just wasn't happy with the way that I cooked it, didn't really like it. And I got completely up in arms about this chicken. And a whole fight ensued, like a ridiculous fight that didn't need to happen. And I, in that moment, recognized in my body, I was super upset. Like when I get upset, my ears get really hot and I feel the need to just like walk away and not deal with it. So I felt these internal events happening in my body. I was observing this. I was able to recognize in that moment, this is what was happening in my body. External events outside. I'm fighting about chicken. This person's not happy with the chicken that they're eating. Okay. Why are you freaking out about it, Natalie? What's the deal? And that's where the reflection comes into play that we'll continue on with. But that step one is that observation. What is going on inside myself and outside myself? And what am I choosing to pay attention to? Am I getting caught up on a word that this person keeps using that I don't like? Or am I taking in the whole picture so that I can use it to problem solve later? I hope that makes sense. Any questions before I move forward?
That definitely makes sense. Let me, Scott Tyndall dropped a comment. He said, reflection and observation is such a great point. I had a mentor tell me one time that life isn't really about experiences. It's about evaluated experiences. He says that stuck with me. So he's saying what you're sharing with him definitely resonates with him because he heard that. And it sounds like that really stuck with him. So
I love that. And I love that reflection on experiences because that's exactly what this is. So to be an effective reflector, to be effective in our interpersonal experiences, we have to first observe internal events, external events. What is going on and what am I choosing to pay attention to? Step two, describe. When we describe, common descriptions of things often include our own judgments. I'm able to say, this is annoying, or this person is talking too much, or, their idea just doesn't make sense. So we put our own judgments onto what we are trying to describe in a situation when we're problem solving. That typically doesn't get us very far because then we're imparting our own thoughts and our own opinions and our own emotions when none of those things are fact. So the main question, thoughts, opinions, and emotions are not fact, then what is? What is a fact? So like I mentioned before, we are coming into it as humans with differing perspectives, differing emotions, and all of that clouds the way that we see the world and clouds the way that we interface with other people? How can we minimize or categorize our thoughts as thoughts, opinions as opinions, and emotions as emotions, so that it minimizes how much it clouds our interactions and our problem solving abilities? If we are approaching a problem from a personal level of our emotional mind, our own personal opinions, when that's not really what it's about, we're probably not going to get very far. So being able to dissect with a person that you're working with, what are the facts here? What is the common end goal? What is right in front of us? What can we describe using facts and not imparting our own personal perspective into it? And how, then what do we do with it? Because we're able to observe what's happening internally and externally in the situation. This is describing, then, this is how I'm feeling about the situation. This is what I'm seeing. It's taking a step back and hearing that perspective from the other person, and then deciding together how to move forward. And this is all of these skills are very common. We all do them every single day. It's really just putting words to the action to make it more concrete and make it more purposeful. Last but not least.
So I see we did have a great question came in from Addison here as we transition on the points. So what would you suggest for when you're sharing your observation, but the recipient doesn't necessarily want to hear it?
Yes. So that is where labeling it as such, putting it in that category of, in my opinion, making it clear that it's your opinion, making it clear that it's your emotion, making it clear that it's your thought. That takes away the assumption that you're trying to say it's a fact, and it makes people much less defensive. If you are approaching it from, in my opinion, or from my observation, this is what I saw. And that is you at the front of it saying, I recognize that your perception of it might be different. And
that sounds like that's huge. Like one
big.
Tiny little phrase takes all the edge off, it sounds like.
Exactly. And it lets that other person know that you are recognizing that this is your own thing, and it's within your control to recognize that. Because that's often what puts people into this defensive position, is the other person trying to make it seem like what they're saying is the fact of the situation. And often, especially like in my realm, obviously the work that I do, a lot of times we talk about like witnesses and eyewitnesses, and how, because we take in information differently, it's not exactly reliable. So how can we be more purposeful in categorizing what we see, what we think, what our opinions are, so that it's not trying to present it as a fact?
Nice. Thank you. All right. Bob doesn't agree, which I think is fantastic.
Oh,
if I said your chicken dinner sucked, in my opinion, your chicken dinner sucked. Bob's making a pretty good point. I think that still would have probably stung a little bit.
It might have stung. And you're very right, Bob. The other thing to remember is that you being as effective as possible is all you can do. And that's the only thing that's within your control. At the end of the day, nobody else is able to control other people, unless, like we talked about, that'd be a great superpower. But at the end of the day, you cannot control how that other person is going to react. As long as you are being as effective as possible in that moment, then you can walk away saying that is on that other person to figure out how they are going to manage those emotions and how they are going to react. I know in that moment that I was effective as I could have been. And then taking it back to observe of what could I have done more effectively next time, because it's likely that it's going to pop up again.
So this something this is not a one-time, this is an ongoing process. I need to keep going back to what am I trying to accomplish, and re-reflecting on whether or not my approach is being effective.
Yes.
So So
It's
what is Bob trying to accomplish by telling you your chicken dinner sucks? Like, determines whether or not telling you that it sucks actually gets, is effective or not.
yes. And that's why you are only 50% of the equation. There's only so much you can do. And if you're approaching it with these skills, that's going to be 50% better than it would have been if you didn't have them. And then you might be able to teach the other person something like, hey, in this situation, if we approach it this way, we might be way more effective. We might communicate in a much better way, and we're going to get better results. We're going to get to that end goal. We're going to get where we want to go.
I like that.
Because then if the other person is also using it, they'll be able to say, in my opinion, that chicken dinner was not good because your chicken was really dry. Next time, can we try cooking the chicken in some marinade?
I like that. And Scott's asking, does it help? And when we're having this conversation, does it help to repeat their position back in the sense of what I think I'm hearing you say is, so to share with them what we're hearing, how we're hearing it to gain clarity? Is that in this process as well, or is that a different tool that's enabled by this process?
That is a different kind of tool entirely if you want to categorize it that way. And it can be integrated into this process, especially in this describe part. That way the other person knows that you are actively listening and you are hearing what they're saying. And I like, Scott, that you put in front of there what I hear you're saying, because then you're not imparting, so what you're saying is, or putting that judgment or personal opinion on it. You're just saying, what I hear you saying is this.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're at part 3. Now we've done our observation. We've done I'm completely blanking on something. So tell us where we are in the process. This is step 3, right?
Yes.
So
step 3, we observe, internal, external. We describe, we categorize those thoughts, opinions, and emotions as such. What do we do next? We have all of this information. We have all of this data, if you want to call it that. Then, oh no, it's not moving. There we go. We apply. How can I use this information to make a more effective decision? Internally, I recognize that I'm upset because this person called out my chicken cooking abilities. I understand, I'm able to describe this as an emotion. I'm feeling incompetent with cooking, and it makes me feel sad. How do I apply this to this situation to make a more effective decision? I talk with the person, kind of like we mentioned before, that I'm cooking with, saying, okay, I recognize that you don't like my chicken. You were able to vocalize that to me. That makes me feel upset because I feel inadequate as a cook. What can I do differently next time? Could you help me cook next time so I can understand how you like chicken? Really mundane example, but in the problem-solving process is huge, because you are able to approach that situation with the mindset of recognizing that you are in control of you're in control of your emotions, you're in control of how you present them, and you're in control of how you use them to problem solve. And in the workplace, so the workplace development that I do, the staff development that I do, this is also a really big piece for communication. And it enhances a solution-based focus rather than taking it from a personal aspect or a personal approach. It really keeps it centered on solution. It really keeps it centered on the task at hand and the problem at hand. And it takes the personalization out of all of it, because you're able to come at it from a very rational standpoint. Even though those emotions are still in there, even though obviously we're human and we have that complexity, we're able to kind of wrap it up into these pieces where we're able to then make it a simpler process. Because reflecting is a huge concept. And like Michael mentioned, we then do this over and over and over and over again. Observe, describe, apply.
So you're actually saying this is, you made this sound easy. but it sounds like you're actually saying it's not as easy as you made it sound. Or if I think it's easy, it makes it. Help me on the easy part.
So concept is easy, difficult to practice initially. As you practice, as you continue this cycle, it becomes inherent, and it is subconscious and it's automatic. So this is just one piece, because then as we're able to reflect in that process of reflecting, of observe, describe, apply, that is reflecting at its core. In order to then apply other tools and skills in interpersonal effectiveness, or to regulate our emotions, or to manage our stress, we have to be able to be self-reflective. We have to be able to reflect at the situation at hand. And that's what the rest of the program is about, is once you have this ability to reflect, it opens a whole wide world of then other skills, other knowledge, other things that you can pull in to be an effective problem solver, to be an effective leader in the way that you interact with others. So the rest of the program is really about those other tools and skills that you can then apply after learning that process of reflection. The other piece that I will always say too is reflection is hard. It's hard to look at yourself. It's hard to sometimes be honest with yourself about those intense emotions. And that's what also makes it difficult, because it's a really vulnerable position to be in. And the more you do it, the more natural it feels, the more natural it becomes.
That's interesting. So I got to go try it, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. So
Okay.
That is my main ending question, is what about you? I hope this opened a little bit of reflective process just in this short period of time. Being able to reflect on, what's a situation where I maybe freaked out a little bit more than I needed to? What was going on with me in that moment? What could I have done differently? How did the other person respond? And how can I use this to be more effective next time?
I like it.
And reflecting on how then that can impact your relationships, not only personally, but in business. If you are able to take this approach of observing the situation, owning yourself, and then applying it, that reflective core is huge.
So I'm going to get us started on reflection right now. I like this. All right, folks. What did you hear, AKA observe? What did you learn? That would be describing it. And then how will you apply this? At the very least, take a minute to write that note down for yourself. I know for me, Natalie sparked a lot of ideas and brought up a lot of different things. And I saw some new connections. And I also got the sense that this is something I feel like I can do this. Like I feel confident in the sense that I appreciate it's not easy, even if it's simple. So making it simple definitely lowers the bar, at least in a good way for this guy. So everybody take a minute. What did you hear? What did you learn? How will you apply this? If you want to share that in the chat, feel free to do so. Natalie, thank you so much for bringing your knowledge, your insight, and sharing all this with us today. I know I took a ton away from it, and based on watching the crowd, so to speak, they were very engaged, and I saw a lot of, well, I don't know, I'm implying a lot of self-reflection going on as well. So thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Hello again, welcome back. I trust that you learned a lot about the power of reflection from Natalie, and I'm sure you're going to put that simple framework into practice. That's observe, describe, and apply. And listening to her again, I added a fourth one. I'm going to call number 4, grow. Because once you do reflection, once you observe, describe, and apply, you really can't help but grow. And you know that we're all about growth. So I just thought that was so awesome. I'm glad you got a chance to see an encore presentation of that keynote. You might put that practice into practice today, maybe even right now. Probably will. I know I am. So reflection for growth really doesn't get any better than that. Now for next week's episode, I'm hoping for a complete accounting and report out of how Brad spent each and every hour of his business trip to that place much warmer and probably sunnier than here. You heard me. We might get to some other things as well. It all depends on how prepared Brad is to account for his whereabouts. Hint, sir, documentation matters. There you go. In the meantime, send your questions and your topic ideas to info@sketchyideasshow.com. And our producer, Elizabeth, will get back to you right away. Come back next week when we entertain more sketchy ideas live. And remember, just because it's a sketchy idea doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. I am Brad. We'll see you next time.